Hey everyone, welcome back to another Tic Tac Taiko. This week's video is one big request. Actually, no, that's not quite right. I am begging you, if you play Taiko, for the love of everything that you love and hold dear about Taiko, please use your legs. Please, I'm begging you, please. Okay, real talk, silliness aside. Why do I give a damn what you or anybody else in the Taiko world does with their legs? It's not a stylistic thing. It's about your health. I watch people play lots of repetitive motions, sometimes very vigorous motions, and they hold their legs still, whether it's on purpose or not. And I know they are inviting pain and injury into their lives. At best, it's holding back potential. And you'll see why as I talk more about this in the video. But very likely, pain and injury are coming. And it may not happen today, it may not happen tomorrow, but it's coming. And you'll start to feel it in your knees, your hips, lower back, upper back, shoulders, or neck. And because it's been formed over months, if not years, of repetitive disuse, it's going to take a long time to get past that injury, if it's even possible. And so this video is really about injury prevention. It's about care of our bodies, and I care about the people playing Taiko in our community enough to make this video. So yeah, I'm being silly, and I'm going to talk a lot about legs and what you can do and what things look like, but what it comes down to is this. Be kind to your body, because once you realize that you haven't been kind, it's probably too late. Now, not everyone remembers or even knows my background, but before I had even heard of Taiko, I was doing martial arts. And if I take all of the years of all the styles I've practiced, it's about the same amount of time as I've been doing Taiko, a little over 30 years. I have decades of experience in Shotokan karate, and I spent a year in both Taekwondo and Capoeira. As you can see in these clips, these martial arts are very focused on the lower body, using the legs. Shotokan is about deep stances and driving the weight forward and back, being very grounded and solid. Capoeira is all about constant movement, deceptive, fluid motion, levels up and down, spinning and turning. And Taekwondo is all about kicks, fast, rapid motion, footwork, lightning fast kicks. And I was incredibly lucky that the Taiko group I wanted to join happened to be San Jose Taiko, because their style is all about lower body with a long, deep stance. Everything just clicked together for me. So my style of Taiko is incredibly grounded and rooted in the lower body. I can't think of a single upper body technique I do that doesn't equally involve the lower body. I acknowledge and respect the fact that there are many ways to play Taiko, many styles, many philosophies, and I love it. I love the variety. So this video is not about style. It's not about saying, oh, well, you're told to do this, but you should really do this. I want to avoid that. Everybody should want to avoid that. This video is inspired by the fact that I have seen way too many of you out there who just do not use your legs, sometimes while playing very vigorously. And I am seeing potential damage, and it physically hurts me to watch. And I just want to move a leg or push a knee out, because I don't want to see people injured and prevented from playing as long as they want. Injury prevention is not talked about enough. It's not focused on enough. So even though this video started out kind of funny with the begging, it's really all about longevity in Taiko. So let's talk more about how to use the legs in Taiko. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of using your legs more or at all in Taiko? For one, they help generate power. You've got a lot of mass down here, and I can project it in one direction, or I can pull down, and I can add to the force of a strike. I'm also able to add speed through very much the same thing, propelling myself with these much larger muscles than I have here, in addition to the muscles I have here, to help generate velocity in any direction I want to strike. I can initiate and or sustain motion much easier by using the legs and the lower body. So if I have, let's say, an arm circle that's already going, it's a lot easier to let my legs use gravity and centrifugal force. But if I just want to start a motion, it's a lot easier to let that motion go through my entire body than just relying on a small chunk of muscles. Using the legs also helps you distribute effort throughout your entire body, not just stopping halfway through. What this does is it's eliminating a lot of wear and tear and friction and tension that ends here and rebounds through the entire body. But it also means by dissipating motion, your whole body is now taking on the labor, not just a part. That's going to make you able to play for a lot longer. You can call this endurance if you want. You're also going to be much more efficient with any motion you do, which is part of endurance and speed and power. It's kind of a package deal at this point. You're also going to have much better balance if you're engaged and aware of what's happening with the legs and the lower body. It's not that people are playing like this, but there's no point where you should feel like you're not quite sure of your footing once your lower body is active. And for those of us who solo, knowing that you have a lower half can give you a lot of options rather than just playing and just making really cool motions with the arms. You're able to pull a leg in and redistribute weight. You're able to turn, you're able to change the stance and play with different arms. You're able to change your posture and have different angles of striking and different visuals for the audience and expression. It's very powerful. Again, it's for soloing, but if you are someone who solos and you're not using a lower body, you're losing at least, if not more, than 50% of the things available to you. As for the disadvantage, it's not a real disadvantage. It's more about getting used to using a lower body. But at first it can feel like it's working against you. So until you understand how things work together, connected, it can feel very much like artificially moving one half of your body while your other half is doing what's familiar. And it just feels like a lot of extra work. But eventually you do get that connection and then you understand, and that extra effort doesn't feel extra anymore. It feels much more cohesive. So a disadvantage, but a temporary one that goes away with time and practice. But just as important as the legs is hitting the like button and of course the subscribe button. If you haven't done that now, why not do that? And then we'll get to the legs. Go ahead. I'll wait. When it comes to using your legs, there are generally 4 types of taiko players. The first type of taiko player is someone who uses their legs with intention. Every strike is tied into the lower body. This is very much how I play. It's how groups like San Jose Taiko play, where you're taught that the lower body is just as important as the upper body, whether it's naname, whether it's betta, whether it's odaiko. And you can see this. Every motion is transferring the weight. The knees are bending. The balance is steady, even when the weight is shifting. The second type of player uses their lower body still, but less. The legs are less integral. Shifting the weight isn't as obvious, but you can see signs of life, usually in the feet. So even if the stance isn't this wide, you can see sometimes the heels coming up. The ball of the foot is very active. There's a lot of activity going on. It may not be this wiggly, but you can see that the lower body is active. It's not being held still. Sometimes it's very subtle. Sometimes it's just this type of motion. You may or may not be able to see it easily. The heel is coming up. I'm shifting my weight in and pushing up. And this is still a person using a lower body, but it's either not as important or not as obvious. The third type of player uses their body, let's say reluctantly or accidentally. So their upper body wants to do stuff, but they don't quite know how to make the lower body help. And so the lower body reacts instead of helps or informs. For example, sometimes the weight wants to go back, but instead of pushing the legs to help push the weight, the hip moves, and you can see the ball of the foot comes up. The heel is now in contact with the floor. This leg is dead. I can't do anything with it, so this is not helping me, but it's reacting to the movement that I'm trying to do. I'm thinking go, and I'm thinking with the hip, so this is what the legs do. Another example is maybe you wanted to stretch and reach across. Well, most of the time, pushing off of the leg would be best, But if your legs aren't working with you, or if they're not smart, then you might wind up sticking the butt out to compensate, or squatting to compensate. So the legs are reacting, not helping. And the fourth type of player, and this is the type I see far too often, has legs, but they don't do anything with them. They're simply there, and I think the only purpose they serve is to keep them from falling down. You might see movement in the legs, but I assure you this movement is coming because we're humans and we have biology. We're not robots or statues. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to make a bunch of really big motions, and I want you to watch what's happening in my legs. Don't watch the arms. Arms are important. So I'm making big taiko strikes. I'm playing really fast and really loud, and my legs are moving because I have weight and I am making physics happen. And my legs have to compensate, but I'm not moving them on purpose. And that's what I'm seeing in a lot of taiko players, is this fourth type of player. The legs are just there. So what I'm hoping in showing these four types of taiko players is for you to identify, where are you on this chart? You may not be a 4 or a 3 or a 2 or a 1. You might be somewhere in between. But I want you to think, maybe I'm around here. And then, if not now, by the end of the video, I want you to think, maybe I want to be a little closer to 3 and 4 and a little further away from 1 and 2. At least, I hope. It's also worth clarifying what I mean by using the legs, because, this is using the legs, but I don't think anybody's going to find this very useful. It's fun. When I say use the legs, I'm talking about a spectrum. On one end of the spectrum, you have where the legs are integral. Every motion, every strike involves the lower body in some way. It's very obvious that these are tied together. The other end of the spectrum is that the legs are at least alive, even if it's just very passive. They're not locked, they're not dead. It may not be a really strong connection, but at least it is a connection versus no connection at all. So I don't really know how to use my legs, but I'm at least trying to use them. Or maybe they're not helping, they're actually going the opposite way of maybe what they should be doing, but I'm aware that I want them to be loose, alive, and trying to help me. That's what I mean by using the legs. There's some kind of intentional motion from very purposeful and helpful to somewhat purposeful and questionable help. For the next section, I want to focus on Betta. I could talk about Betta and Naname and Odaiko, but it's a lot. And if you understand my concepts of stance on Betta, you can apply them to any other stance on any other type of taiko. There are 4 main ways you can stand and play Betta. Now, you might play a different way, a 5th way, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be close to one of these 4. And if it's not, and you are clearly a 5th type, great, congratulations. I'll give you a cookie, that's awesome. But you'll still be able to apply what I'm talking about in this video. And these 4 ways are the wide stance, the long stance, the small stance, and the big stance. The wide stance has the feet longer widthwise than the width of the drum. So if you're on the other side of the drum, you should be able to see the feet given somebody's relative height. But the length of the stance is just offset slightly so that you're creating a rectangle shape and not your feet in a straight line. If your feet are in a straight line, you're much more likely to deal with balance issues. So offsetting creates a square or a rectangle in this case. The long stance transposes the wide stance. So now the width of the stance is shorter than the width of the drum, so you wouldn't be able to see the feet, but the length of the stance is as long as the width of the wide stance. You're just changing the orientation. The small and big stances are both squares. The small stance widthwise is shorter or as long as the width of the drum, and that same width equal in length. So you're creating a square shape. And the big shape is just a bigger version. Rather than being the length or smaller, you're wider, but also the same lengthwise. So you have a square, either a small one or a large one. Now, I'm not going to go into all the pros and cons of these 4 stances. That's a really long video, and really, I don't think it's going to be helpful, because what I want you to do is to try all 4 out. And I'm going to give you a few very, very simple drills for you to try them out. And if you have a 5th style, the way that you play, I want you to add that on as well. There are 3 types of motion I want you to do in all 4 or 5 of these stances. One of them is up and down, is lifting and dropping. As you come up, the legs straighten, and as you strike, shock absorbers. You let the weight go into the ground, through your knees, into the floor. So it's a big breath-like motion. You're not going to play fast. I want you to really exaggerate up and down, tall and short. And I want you to try this with all of the stances. You might find very early on that the knees or the ankles don't like this motion in some stances. And conversely, you might find that it's really easy in some stances. The second type of motion is a side-to-side motion, but not just one side to side, all the side to sides. Think of a compass. So you might have going this way, you might have going this way, but you also have the diagonals as well. You don't have to try 360. 4 different angles is plenty. You'll very, very clearly find that some of those angles do not work, and every stance is susceptible. You'll very quickly and easily find out which ways work with some stances and which ways do not. They're all going to have weaknesses, they're all going to have strong ways. So this is one way to find out. But you can also start looking at how you would compensate. So let's say your stance is more this way and you're trying to move this way. Well, clearly it's hard, but how can you compensate? Some stances might make it easier to compensate than others. And finally, the last type of motion I want you to try is a pulse. It's play don suku or don doko, something where you would play repetitive don da da 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 don. You're going to be here for a while like you're supporting a soloist, and you're just going to pulse. And the lower body is just lightly up and down. Dun, 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 dun. Is this something that feels comfortable that you would want to do for 4 or 5 minutes in this stance? Some stances, yes. Some stances, probably not. Again, that's why I have you do this as the 3rd type of movement. The point of these stances and these exercises is for you to understand the options you have, if your stance is suiting you, what you can and can't do in these stances, and then ultimately pick one. Find the one that works for you. It may be the one you're using now, but you might discover something more about it, or it might be one you've never thought about. Now, as you go through some of these movements, you may have to make some adjustments, shifting the weight more on one side or more on the other side, turning the feet, putting the pressure more on the ball of the foot or the heel of the foot. This is all about exploring the stance in the motion. There's no right or wrong. It's more, this is working and this isn't working. And you'll find out what that is. And look, I get it. Your style, your sensei, your group may say no. You have to stand a certain way. Okay, so be it. But if you know that a way works better for you, that's information that you can still apply and use, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but someday down the road, maybe. And maybe you're stuck in a stance, but if you're thinking about what's working for you and not working for you, you can start making some adjustments. So that was a lot of surface level information. And it might have seemed like a lot of information overall, but it's surface level. I did not go into depth about the types of stances, the types of people who move or don't move, the advantages, disadvantages. I just threw all that out there because I want you now to be informed and explore on your own. If you want more depth, I am more than happy to come out and teach workshops. I talk about Betta, Naname, Odaiko, and I focus a lot on the lower body. But if you can't or don't want me to come out, please find someone who can talk about this. Because really, like I said in the beginning, this is about injury prevention. It's not about me teaching and my ego and spreading my philosophy. It's about getting more taiko people to realize what their legs can do so they can play longer. The longer we can play, the better off the community is. So, until next time, keep on practicing by using the legs and be well.